Hello.
Hey again.
Long
Good
time.
to see you. We're good. We've got sound and everything now.
Dang. First class. So we are recording this, just so everybody knows. So everybody's got to behave. So are we ready to get started?
So
Okay.
this class is a little different. This is the beginning Adobe Visual Design. So we're doing Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign in this particular class.
Well, that's awesome. That's
What project are you guys working on right now?
Well, right now we're not doing a project. Well, they're about to start a project where they are going to just utilize some of the basic tools that we've learned in class.
Okay.
You know, so they're learning a lot about the details in class. We're trying to get ready to pass a certification test. But at the end of the unit, they'll have a really big project.
Okay, got it.
all right, guys. So
Introduce yourself.
yeah, welcome to Lenore Community College. This is the graphics department. My name is Dwight Downey. I'm the head of the graphic arts program and advertising program. This is Dr. Hope Carroll.
Hi
Tell
there.
what you do.
Yep. I'm an instructor in both the graphic arts and imaging tech program and the advertising and graphic design program. We have two graphics programs.
So I'm going to kind of give you a little overview of what we plan to get accomplished today. And so we're going to talk about the programs in general. We've got, I'm going to let Dr. Carroll talk a little bit more about one of the programs. We've got some equipment demonstrations to do. We have student samples to look at. We're going to talk about scholarships and how do you get to school, come to college, and money available for that. We're going to talk about the CCP program. You may have heard a little bit about that. But we're really going to kind of focus on, I mean, you're here to kind of take a tour. So we're kind of going to tour you around the lab and around the department, or most of it anyway, and talk about some different equipment that our students might get their hands on. So this is again, we have two different associate degree programs housed in our department. One of them is the graphic arts and imaging technology program, and the other one is the advertising and graphic design program. Both of them are very similar in the sense that they are creative, as well as we address and learn about different printing technologies and supplemental technology that goes along with that. Very hands-on, very project-oriented. So we rarely are sitting back in class and just lecturing. Most everything that we do is based on a project. And so students love that because, again, they get to kind of practice what they're learning in classroom and apply it to something. And you'll see some samples here in a second. But to speak a little bit about the graphic arts programs, we're only one of three in the state community college system. Does anybody know how many community colleges there are in the state? Any guesses?
One of them's guessing 3.
No, there's 58 community colleges in the state. And so we serve, she may have heard the presentation before that there's only 3 graphic arts programs out of all those 58. So the other 2 are in the western part of the state in Charlotte and Winston-Salem, but we're the only ones kind of east of Winston-Salem when it comes to graphic arts. You'll see with some of the equipment and technology that we teach that is highly specialized, very expensive. So not every community college can afford to kind of put this kind of program in. So we're very unique in that sense. And the other side of this is that we have the advertising and graphic design program. Oftentimes those are under 2 different departments at some colleges, but we actually have it all under one department. And I'm going to let Dr. Carroll talk a little bit more about the advertising and graphic design program and how that differentiates from the graphic arts program.
Okay. So, hey, again, my name is Hope Carroll. And so in the advertising graphic design program, and we recently added this program probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. We've had the graphic arts program for a long time. I'm actually
from 1970.
Yeah, no. So I am actually a product of the graphic arts program. In fact, Mr. Downey was my teacher at one point, and so now I'm an alum, and I'm here come back to my hometown, so to speak, to teach. But so the advertising graphic design program has a little bit more of a focus on like creative brainstorming. We've added some drawing classes to that program. There's only a difference of 4 classes between the graphic arts program and the advertising graphic design program. And we get this question a lot: what's the difference between graphic arts and graphic design? And they really are very closely related. And so back to those 4 classes, I said there's a drawing class, so we have a fundamental drawing class. We have a technical drawing class. We've added a second multimedia class. And
Which
so
is like web design, that kind of stuff.
yeah, web design, app design, using UX and UI. And then we've added a 3rd graphic design class. And in that 3rd graphic design class, I know Mr. Downey has been teaching that class. They delve into just more logo development and things like that. And so we do have a lot of students who are double majoring because there's only a difference of 4 classes. Both of our programs start with concept development, learning the phases of graphic design, and start with creative brainstorming and sketching, and before they go to the computer. And so both of our programs start with that development. But then the graphic arts program, I would probably say, has a little bit more focus on production and the technology, whereas graphic design has a little bit more of a focus on the different areas of graphic design and areas that you might go into. And so, am I missing something?
No, I mean,
Okay.
and again, that's, being that there's slight differences, again, most of our students end up after 2 years graduating with 2 associate degree programs. They also, most of them or both of our programs are geared to putting students to work and finding jobs for them. And we assist our students in job placement. But a lot of our students, I would say about half and half, tend to transfer to a 4-year school. So they can transfer to Chowan University up in the northeastern part of the state, which is a private school. They can go to Appalachian State. They can go to Mount Olive University. They can go to North Carolina A&T. They could go outside. One of the bigger graphic schools close by is at Clemson in South Carolina, but you would have out-of-state tuition to think about there. I'm going to let Dr. Carroll talk a little bit about scholarship opportunities,
Yep.
CCP program, LCC guarantee.
Okay. And so you guys have probably heard of College and Career Promise. I hope I'm saying that right, or Career and College Promise classes, or what we call CCP classes. So your high school probably offers a range of CCP classes. We actually have 4 CCP classes. You would take 2 graphic design classes and 2 photography classes. And then once you complete those 4 classes, you would earn a certificate in, I think it's called digital design and photography. And so after you complete, and kind of the rule is for the LCC guarantee, what we call the LCC guarantee is, if you complete 3 classes or 9 credits of CCP classes, and they can be any CCP classes, we just encourage you obviously to take the graphics ones, and you graduate with a 3.0, you can come to LCC for free. And so everything is paid for, your books are paid for, everything that you need to attend LCC, your tuition and everything is paid for through the LCC guarantee. And so just keep that in mind. If you are interested in our program or either of our programs, we do offer 4 classes that you can take that qualify for CCP. You finish at least 3, graduate with a 3.0, and you can come here for free, hopefully, and enroll in our program. So, and we were talking about this earlier too, even if you're not an LCC guarantee student and you decide to come to LCC, we have lots of scholarship opportunities for you. We've got some scholarships that are particular for our programs. And then, there's always a way to help you if you're struggling. We had some students last semester that were getting funding, and then that funding got dropped, and they were like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for college. We found a way to make sure that they could stay enrolled and graduate on time. And so there's always a way to help you financially here at LCC.
Yeah, don't let money get in the way of you and your education. We'll find a way. Like Dr. Carroll said, there's lots of sources on campus, and part of our job is making sure that you get the opportunity that you need. So again, there's 2 programs, very similar. Admissions process is very easy. You do some CCP classes, you can come for free. I mean, this is just a no-brainer. I think your parents certainly would appreciate you pursuing the LCC guarantee scholarship. Question earlier was how much does it cost to come to LCC? It's about $1,100 a semester for a full-time student. You add books and fees on top of that, you're probably about $1,500 a semester. It's not as cheap as it used to be. People think community college is, inexpensive. Well, it is compared to some schools, but it's not cheap either. Again, we do have money. There's grant money available. There's scholarship money available. And we'll certainly do our best to try to match you up to the right scholarship to allow you to come to our school. Okay. So
any questions?
yeah, did we confuse anybody? Was I messing people up here with confusing them about all the terminology? Sometimes we speak in education ease.
Yeah, I think they understood the part about the help with the tuition, which is really just awesome.
So, so what does it take to be a graphic arts student? So, I'll go, I've been doing this a long time. Dr. Carroll was one of my students at one time. Over time, I start to kind of recognize what's in our classroom. We look at the students, look at the demographic, look at their interests. So we're looking, typical graphic art student is somebody that likes art or is creative in something, whether it be writing, music, illustration, painting, somebody that likes computers, somebody that likes working with their hands. And so if any of those characteristics kind of fit you, you would probably be an ideal graphic student. Typically people that are more expressive, but it is a creative area, but it's also, we're blending a lot of technology, as you're gonna see, with that creativity. So you kind of have to work both sides of your brain. There's very little math. So you guys can, not worry about that. That's what a lot of students struggle with, math. They're like, do I have to take math? Well, you can take math or a science. Most of our students end up taking a science to meet that degree requirement. There is some general ed required to meet the degree. But again, we found that most of our students are not good in math. That's why they're in a visual field. And so we try to cater to that. But again, if you like art and you're creative, you like computers and you like working with your hands, those are pretty good characteristics to have to decide on whether or not this is a good fit for you.
We do get a lot of students too who come into our program and they're like, is there a gaming degree here? Because I'm really big into gaming and I want to learn how to design characters, or I want to learn how to code video games. So we get a lot of students who come into our program, and we don't offer gaming, but we do touch on animation. You're definitely going to be learning how to draw, right? And so you kind of need a foundation of graphic design and those principles to get you moving in the right direction to be maybe an animator or a gamer. And so we do have quite a few students who that is their interest, and that's why they came into our program.
Yeah, so you guys are you're in the right place, taking Miss Anderson's digital design classes, getting a foundation. We're using the exact same software. Most of our students subscribe to the Adobe Creative Cloud, which is the primary applications that we use are Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And so we have 4 classes in computer graphics. We have 2 classes in Photoshop. We've got 2 classes in web design. I mean, you're going to get your fill of Adobe Creative Cloud products. So, I would encourage you to take as many digital design classes as you can if you're interested in this field, because we're definitely going to kind of hit the ground running with a lot of the same subject area that you're already learning about. Okay. So we're going to kind of take a tour if we're good with that. Is everybody okay? We good on time, Ms. Anderson?
Yes, okay. We are.
So we'll kind of start off. I'm going to switch cameras now. So let's see if this works again. So we're just going to start here because it's convenient for us. This is a wide format printer. And Dr. Carroll, walk over there to give them some scale. So this is like 5 feet wide. This is 5 feet wide, and it can print any length. We've done building banners, vehicle wraps, posters, outdoor signage, anything like that. So it is good for outdoor products, because the ink that we use is a solvent-based product. I call it's an inkjet on steroids. So you've got an inkjet printer at home. This does the exact same thing. It's just a little bit more robust, and it can print on a lot more, a variety of material, including vinyl, paper, plastic, that kind of thing. So we're going to kind of move around. So you'll see lots of computers popping up everywhere, because there's computers attached to a lot of devices that we use, and we're kind of rolling around on this tripod, so forgive me if it's a little shaky. I'm gonna kind of zoom around over here. This is what we call a plate setter. That's a supplemental piece of equipment that we need when we're teaching the offset printing process, and we'll show you that. That would be for plate making. So you might hear in printing, hey, we got to have a plate to print something, and so this is about $100,000 laser printer, pretty much is what it does. Yes, yeah, it's crazy. It's just so precise and all that, but not much to it when you look at it, but there's a lot inside that box. So we get into screen printing. It's an exposure unit back there. This little purple box, I call it Barney. That's a drying cabinet. And so when we get into the screen printing process, we have to, it's kind of got a high intensity light source up top. I'm going to get Dr. Carroll to demonstrate the actual printing of a t-shirt using the screen printing processes. All this equipment that you're seeing now is screen printing equipment. That's our washout booth over there with the light that's lit up so that we can, when we're making our stencil. So I'm going to shoot this over here so you can see the stencil up on the screen. And Dr. Carroll is loading a shirt. So this is how shirts are printed. So students, again, would be involved in every stage of this process. This is a manual press. We can print up to 6 colors at a time. If you zoom in, she's printed a shirt just like that. And then she'll load it on our dryer over there in the corner. And that's like a pizza oven. It kind of cures the ink. The ink that we use, it's called a plastisol ink, and it needs heat in order for it to dry so it doesn't wash out when you stick it in the washing machine. And so again, we can do 6 colors, I think, on our machine. We normally just get into 1 and 2 color work. So over here is an offset press. So if we were trying to print things like you see up on that board over here, this is like a brochure. It's kind of hard to see that, but we could do brochures, any kind of flat, rectangular, fairly thin paper, brochures, business cards, letterheads, envelopes, postcards, that kind of thing. We can print with this machine right here. So our students get their hands on this their first semester. It looks complicated when you look at all the buttons on it, but they pick up on it pretty quickly. This next machine over here is our ESCO cutting table, and it allows us to get into 3D packaging, design, prototyping, die cut prototypes, greeting card prototypes, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to demonstrate this project real quick for you. So this is a rigid corrugated material, like cardboard box material. And we're going to produce this box template that we've got set up over here on that computer. The file would be set up in Adobe Illustrator. So we're using Illustrator to create the die lines or the cutout, the template, and then we transfer it to this computer, and then this computer drives this big cutting table. This is about 12 feet long by about 8 feet wide. It's a giant vacuum table. You'll hear it fire up, so I'm going to kind of be quiet because you're going to have a hard time hearing anything. There's a little camera on there that was looking for the corner. It found it. Now it's kind of doing its thing. Basically a cutting robot.
It's got a copy of the actual printout.
And they get to have them in the books.
It looks kind of like one, doesn't it?
That's what.
Yeah. It's like a tall, happy.
So again, this would be for packaging prototyping. We wouldn't want to be doing 1,000 of these. This is where the designer would come up with the idea. We want to run a prototype to run by the client. The client would approve it or not. And then, of course, you would go to mass production where they would have machinery and equipment to do this much faster. Again, this is for small batch runs or prototyping where you're just doing a small amount. So that's kind of what it cut it out as. And we would punch all this out the rest of the way. See, this is where the handles are. So this is a project that we do in our Graphic Arts 2 class. We call this a cookie gift box project. And I have kind of the finished sample over here, but we would kind of assemble this, something like that, fold it over and get it all together. Think about all the packaging that's out there. If you walk into the grocery store, think about everything that's in a printed package. I mean, everything you get from Amazon or wherever comes in a box. So packaging, design and box develop is big business. So this was a project where the students actually had to shoot the pictures of the cookies in our photo lab that you'll see here in a second. They had to do the layout and the design in Illustrator, Photoshop, whatever they needed, the tools there. Create the cut file, send the cut file over here to this machine, learn how to operate this machine to output their prototype. But anyway, they end up turning out something like this. So this is like the finished product. Okay, questions on that? We good?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to, let me flip, we're going to kind of just move around. We're going to make it into our computer lab, but we're going to zoom over here. This is our digital press. Okay, let me get up close to it where Dr. Carroll's going to model it for us. So this is our digital press. It looks like a copier, acts like a copier. It can produce full color that rivals offset printing and other printing methods. It has all kinds of finishing capability where it can output finished books, folded, stapled, collated, all that good stuff. But the quality is incredible. This is about a $220,000 piece of equipment here.
That's all.
That's all, right? It's a house. You just saw a house right there.
Did you tell them how much the ESCO was?
No, I didn't. The cutting table is pretty close to about that same price. I mean, it's a couple $100,000 here. So this light will cut on in a second, and then we'll kind of zoom around and look at student samples. But we're walking into one of the computer labs. So we have 2 Mac labs that look very similar to this. And we're running Adobe Creative Software just like you are. So this is a 16 station lab, and we have a 24 station lab down the hall. And so we're well equipped. This is a brand new facility for us. We were in another building till this past summer and just moved over here. But we're going to look at some student samples now. I'm going to let Dr. Carroll kind of talk through some of this.
So I'm going to just kind of go through some of these samples that we've done in our class.
There you go.
In one of my classes, the students design a calendar, and then they print that calendar, trim that calendar down, and then they bind the calendar on the top. And so this is just one where a student did 80s most popular. So they have to find all the images, and then they have to design the grid that goes here too. And then they have the option to add, you know, holidays and things like that. And so this is just an example of one that a student did. And then on the back, a lot of times they'll do all the mini, like the thumbnail images of what they put in the calendar. So there's one on dogs, and that's the back. There's a cat one and different kinds of things. I've got some students that are in my computer graphics 4. We have 4 computer graphics classes. These students, they're getting ready to graduate. And so one of the projects that they recently worked on was a greeting card. The greeting card had to have some type of special cut. So they cut these out on that cutting table that you saw. So the cutting table can do wood, it can do plastic, It can do paper, obviously can do kind of cardboard material. And so this student did kind of a Disney theme when you open it up, and then it's got something on the back. I have a student that did like a Valentine's, like a Minecraft Valentine's card. He put his logo. All the students come up with personal branding and a personal logo while they're in the program. And so he put his kind of logo on the back, but he did a Minecraft, put some stuff. So his special cutout was the space. And then we've got some ornaments. So my first year students last year did what I was calling greeting card ornaments. And so we printed it on special, it's hard to see, I know now, but it was printed on this pearlescent paper. And so sometimes we have special projects where we use special types of paper or we add things to them. So these were cut out again on the cutting table, and then we just added some ribbons so they could be an ornament basically. In the fall, typically for second year students, we partner with a local coffee shop called Middle Grounds. And so I know the owner over there at Middle Grounds, and my students actually take a field trip to the coffee shop, and we try out her coffee, and we sit down and we talk with the owner of the shop about what are her needs, right? Because she essentially becomes our client, but also she's trying to promote or market to her clients, which are her customers. And so my students just sit around and they take research notes, because research is a huge part of design planning. And so we go through that stage, and then the students kind of all pick a theme based on that conversation with her, and they do a table tent card. And so then once we do the table tent cards, we donate those to her coffee shop, and she actually puts them out. And so if you're ever in Kinston, you go down to Middle Grounds, you might see these on the table. And so here's another example of one. This one had to do with fall, drinks on the back, and then she put kind of a leaf theme on the inside of that. And so if you look at these, this is a book project that Mr. Downey does with his first year students. And so students actually get the opportunity to design a book cover. So if you kind of look at it like this, they design a book cover, and then they actually make the sketchbook, right? And so this cover is printed on basically kind of a thick sheet of paper. They run it through a lamination process to give it kind of a smooth, soft touch feel. And then they have boards that they adhere it to. They do the block on the inside. And so it goes through a lot of production steps to get to this point that they end up having a pretty cool sketchbook in the end. So we've got some postcards here. So students will actually, this is a project that one of Mr. Downey's classes does. They go downtown Kinston and they actually take photos of places in Kinston. This one is the Chef and the Farmer, which is a really popular restaurant downtown Kinston. This one is for the Red Room. They've actually renamed this. This is a bar. They've renamed it the Office now, but this was for the Red Room. So it has, this is a double-sided piece. It has a front and a back. They're just postcards. And this is a project where Mr. Downey's class actually partners with, is it Pride of Kinston or the Chamber?
Yeah.
So it's one of our downtown Kinston affiliates. And so these postcards, a lot of these end up getting donated. They get put in a postcard rack. And so when people come to Kinston, they visit Pride of Kinston, and then they can take free postcards with them that our students have made. So that's a pretty cool partnership too. We've got these coffee cups. So we print, it's a digital process called dye sublimation. So it uses a special type of ink and a special type of paper. And when we print, it's like inkjet kind of, but when we print it out, we can wrap it around here, our design around the cup, and then we put it in a hot mug press. We wrap that mug press real tight around this for however long. And when we take it off, that ink has a head here to anything that's polyester coated. So we can do mouse pads and keychains and things like that. Here's another example of that cookie box that we were working on earlier. We've got some billboards here. So students do a billboard project. We've got these kind of mock-up billboards
Grab one.
that we
pick it
use.
up.
Want me to hold one up?
Yeah. If it doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's one. It looks just like a little mini billboard. And so students have to understand that, and this is part of the design research, when a car is driving by or someone is driving by at 60 to 75 miles an hour and they glance at a billboard, there's only so much information they can read. So designing for billboards is a lot different than designing for, say, a brochure, right? Because people can sit down and they can read through a brochure and there's multiple panels and multiple pages a lot of times, but billboards, you don't have that option. So this is a different way to design for a different kind of outcome or product. And so students do a project where they do billboard design. We've got students who are working on these little menu booklets right now. And this is one of my classes, and they just kind of are finishing up these. So another project where you lay this out in InDesign, all right, as separate pages. You send them to the digital press. It does it double-sided and puts them in order, and then you have to go and bind it at the top. So starts with design, print, trim it, bind it, ends up being a finished piece, just like these t-shirts, right? So students design t-shirt designs, and then they buy their shirts. They go to they put their design onto a screen, and that's another process. But in the end, they end up having a cool shirt that they can wear and show off to their friends. And we always tell them that you made it at LCC in the graphics program. So we're all about trying to promote. And one last thing, and I'll let Mr. Downey talk about one of his projects, but one of the other things that that we do is it's called dimensional marketing, right? So 3D, if you think of 3D, that's kind of what this is. So every year our students participate in a print competition through an organization called PICA. It's the Printing Industries of the Carolinas, and it covers North and South Carolina. All kinds of high schools and colleges compete. So we compete, our community college competes against other community colleges in addition to Clemson University, Appalachian State, and many other four-year colleges. So for the past 2 years, we have won the top prize. And the top prize comes with $500 for the student and $500 for our program. We usually attend a banquet and we get a chance to stand on a podium and accept the award, and we get a plaque. It's a very special thing. So we recently found out that this is the 3rd year in a row that our students have won. This was one of them. This was last year's project. So that little box is supposed to pop out. Usually I think the rubber bands are getting old in it. So this was one of the projects. And once it pops out, there's a message here too. And so it's got information about ASPCA. I'm not going to fiddle with that. This was this year's winning product. And so these, when you pull one of these, and it's kind of glitchy, but when you pull one of these, the other one's supposed to slide out. So it slides out like this. It's ripped there, sorry. And then this is the back. And so the student kind of made up a dentist, a fictional dentistry. And then he came up with some fictitious information. But he basically pieced this together, and this was the winner this year. So we're really proud of him, and I'm really excited that he won. So Mr. Downey, did you want to talk a little bit about
I can.
Okay.
Okay, so this is one of the projects that we're doing in one of our advanced classes, to where we come up with, again, fictitious products that we're trying to get to market. And so we've got 3 different companies. I'll let the students pick which company, depends on their interest. We do like a bottled water, we do a microbrew beer, or we do an apple infused water, or whatever it might be. So I'll kind of let them pick based on their interest. But anyway, they end up having to come up with a logo. They've got to come up with a manufacturer's logo, and then they got to come up with a product logo. Then they got to put it all together and actually create a prototype. We start off with doing this all electronically, digitally, in a 3D software program that you guys have access to called Adobe Dimension, where they actually build their bottle, their vessel, decide what the bottle shape's going to be. They develop the logo, kind of slap it on there to get an idea of, as far as the labeling, get an idea. Then we actually take it through what I call prototyping, where we actually produce the physical label, slap it on the bottle to kind of give it a better idea of how it's going to look in the end. We then take that product and we create a bottle carrier, like a 6-pack or a 4-pack carrier. So we're adding a dimension there where they got to take their design elements, apply them to this different piece of packaging. We take it even farther, and we design billboards to advertise the product. We design vehicle wraps that you might see going down the road, to how do we get the product to market. And then once we get into the grocery store, we do point of purchase displays, like these big cardboard cutouts advertising this product. So we're trying to take a product from scratch and get it to market. There's other pieces involved with that. You would have television, radio, newspaper, magazine, media. Obviously, you'd have to advertise in website development. I mean, to get a product to market takes quite a bit. And so we're just trying to touch on some of the key pieces that a customer or client might need. And so again, this is a pretty involved project. It doesn't look like much, but this class, we pretty much cover the whole semester with dealing with just one product and coming up with the different pieces to get it to market. One of the things they have to do is once they create the prototype is we got to learn how to do product photography. So that's where we're getting ready to go next, is show you our photography studio. So students, you know, again, we've covered a lot of things. They've got to be creative. They got to know how to use computers and software. They've got to know how to use all this printing technology. We've got 2 classes in digital photography. They got to understand graphic design. I mean, it's very challenging, but if you have an interest in it, you'll have a blast. I mean, it's just, I've been doing this a long time, and the work and the students still excite me in terms of being able to see what they produce, the jobs that they get. I'm always amazed at where they end up. It's so unpredictable. And one of the things we haven't talked about was, you know, all the phone app development, all the things that you have on your phone. Somebody's got to design that interface. Somebody's got to design this little logo of the app. Those are all graphic design people. So if you have an interest in getting into electronic media, this is a great foundation for you to get into, or a program to get into as well, because we're using Adobe XD, which deals with UX and UI design, which all your apps and websites are employing that kind of, those kinds of elements, and being able to have a firm understanding of that. So let's look at our photo studio real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap up here in a second. I'm gonna get out of the way so she can see it. So we've got a pretty nice photo studio here where we can get into portrait photography. Dr. Carroll, she collaborated with the Lenore County Early College High School on campus, where they just did all the yearbook photos. So we had a student of ours kind of set up the photos, shoot all the photos, and we'll hand that off to the yearbook staff coordinator over there. But we can do product photography, like I said, with that bottle. You'd have to do a different setup with lights. We have video lights as well as strobe lights for regular photography. But again, it's pretty involved. So if you've got an interest in photography, you can certainly explore to your heart's content in here. Okay, so we're going to kind of get to a point where we can wrap up a little bit. We're going to switch back to our face-to-face here. And I know we've thrown a lot of information at you. We've got a lot of literature that we plan to send to Ms. Anderson so she can share with you guys. And if you do have questions, I would invite you to come out. I hope it kind of conveyed through our video what kind of operation we have. But if you would like to come out for a campus visit, you're more than welcome. Ms. Anderson knows how to get up with us. You can reach out. We can kind of schedule something for you can come out here and we can tour the whole campus itself. But that's about all I have.
Yeah.
Do we have questions on that side?
Did you want to talk about your portfolio? All of this culminates to a portfolio.
Yeah, that's one of the things we do have. And because of COVID, we weren't able to do it, but we generally have a portfolio show, an open house in the spring, where students take all these samples of work and they compile it into a website, into a finished book. We have a show where people from the community, people or their friends, family, people from business and industry come in, and we talk about how to present your portfolio. This would be one of the portfolios that one of our students did last year or so. But they take all the work that they did, put it into a nice printed book, and this kind of takes a snapshot of their ability at this time. So we cover resume writing, portfolio development, presentation. Again, we're trying to prepare them for the workforce primarily, but again, we did mention they do have the capability of transferring if they wish. So that's about it, unless you have some burning questions.
Okay, I think they're good. We really appreciate it, and I appreciate you recording it. I'd like to keep it and also have it available for my students if I could.
No problem. Sure. We'll get this packaged up and sent to you. And Ms. Anderson, we're in the process of getting ready to do a direct mail campaign where we're going to be sending some information out. And again, if you have students that may be interested, that way you can put something in their hand, and that way they can take it home and study it a little bit better. Okay.
Okay, that sounds great.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
No problem.
I really appreciate your time.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
All right, you too. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Appreciate it.
No problem.